boys and girls, okay, so for today's circle activity, you should have these number cards with buttons on them, just like Pete's buttons on his shirt, and then a bag of buttons. So there's two different ways that I would like this activity to be done, depending on what level your child is at. So for the most basic way to do this activity, what you'll do is just grab the lower number cards. So I would just maybe do like 1 through 5 and not even worry about using the buttons. So what we're going to do is just focus on having your child isolate their finger and pointing to the button on the card to count using one-on-one correspondence. So what you'll do is you'll first take the card out and you'll say, look, I see 1 button. Let's count the 1 button. And you'll model it for them first. Look, 1, you do. And if they're unable to independently do it, then what you would do is model again. Look, you do 1. If they're still unable to provide a response independently, you would give them the partial prompt. And if they're still unable to do it, then you would provide full hand-over-hand assistance. So you would say, this is pointing to 1, 1. And you would do the same thing for 2. Look, I see 2 buttons. Let's count. Are you ready? 1, 2. You do it. And then you would give them some time to be able to provide a response. If still no response, provide the model again. Look, this is you do 1, 2. Hopefully they would provide a response. If still no response, you would provide a partial prompt by providing either a prompt to the wrist or the elbow. And if still no response, you would provide hand-over-hand assistance by taking their finger and look, saying, this is you do, let's count together. 1, 2, 2 buttons. So that's the first way to do this activity. The next way to be able to do this activity is utilizing the buttons. So you would take out 1 card. You can start with 1. So these cards go all the way up to 10. So what I would do is put out your card and then lay out some buttons. Just be careful with the buttons. There are some larger ones, but there's also some smaller ones. So if you're afraid that your child might put these in their mouths, maybe pick out the smaller ones and put them up. Or you can just choose to not utilize the buttons and you can maybe use something else like Play-Doh, but if you're afraid they're gonna use that too, maybe find something else to use or just avoid using an item altogether and just work on counting using the pointer finger and pointing to the buttons on the cards. But if you're able to use the buttons, this is what I would suggest doing. So look, I see 1 button. And what you would do is give them the verbal direction, get 1 button. So hopefully your child is able to get 1 button and you would give them the direction, put on. And they would put the 1 button on. If they're unable to get 1 button and they go to grab a whole handful, you would model getting the 1 button. So you would say, this is get 1 button, 1 button, put it on. And then if they're still unable to get the 1 button, you would provide the partial prompt or the full hand-over-hand assistance to be able to get the 1 button. Then once your child puts the number of buttons on the card, then you would say, let's count how many buttons we have. Are you ready? And you would model it first. Look, I see 1 button. How many buttons do you see? And you would give them the verbal direction to count the buttons. I want you to count the buttons. And they should isolate the finger and be able to point how many buttons are on the card. So the same thing for 2 all the way up to 10. So for 2, you would give the verbal direction, get 2 buttons. So you would either have your child independently get the 2 buttons. If they're unable to do it independently, you would model it. This is get 2 buttons. Look, 2 buttons. Let's put on. And you will put them back and then provide the partial prompt or the full prompt for them to get the buttons. And then once the buttons are there, you would say, let's count our buttons. Look, ready? 1, 2. You do. Count the buttons. And they should be able to count independently. And if they're unable to do that, you provide the partial prompt or the full prompt by taking their finger and say, let's count. 1, 2. So if you guys have any questions on how to complete this activity, please feel free to reach out and I will be happy to provide any input or suggestions as needed. Thank you guys so much and I hope you have a great day.